Okay, good morning. Today is Friday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. On behalf of this Public Safety Committee, we want to wish everyone a lovely day. And that, it's okay to say I love you today, and each and every day. But nonetheless, I'm Councilmember Joe Buscaino, Vice Chair of Public Safety. I'm joined by Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell. We will soon be joined by Chair, Councilmember Mitch Englander. And we are going to start on item number 4, and then I know we have a number of consent items. We'll wait for until we have a quorum to take those consent items, and then we'll hold off on public comment till later in the meeting. So with that, we can hear item number 4. Read that into the record, please.
Item 4, motion Buscaino Englander relative to instructing the LAPD and requesting the city attorney with the assistance of the CLA to report with recommendations to establish a standing reward offer for hit-and-run crimes that occur in the city of Los Angeles, including how the reward process would be administered and the potential fiscal impact.
Thank you. As we know, unfortunately, we have the distinction of being the hit-and-run capital of the country, and we want to change the culture of how hit-and-runs are handled here in the city of Los Angeles. We directed the LAPD to craft a report on the epidemic of hit-and-runs that plagued our city. Per the report, we identified 20,000 reported instances of hit-and-run crimes without our borders, ranging from simple property damage to vehicular homicides. And at our direction, the police department now considers hit-and-run crimes as a very serious assault on public safety. And we now have, thanks to this report, legislation pending in Sacramento, thanks to our colleague in Sacramento, Assemblymember Mike Gatto, that's pending in Sacramento that will seek to elevate penalties for hit-and-run crimes to the level of seriousness they deserve. However, there is still more work to be done here on the city level, and for instances of hit-and-run crimes where more information is needed to solve the crime of bringing these cowards to justice, we must act to create more incentive for those that have information that can solve these crimes to come forward. We offer rewards for information leading to arrests and convictions in murder cases, as we all know. We offer standing rewards for information leading to those who illegally dump in our alleys. And the question is, why should we not act to put in place a standing reward on the serious assault on the quality of life for the residents of the city? We have Los Angeles Police Department here. Thank you so much for a report. I'd like to hear some recommendations on my motion to create a standing reward for hit-and-run crimes, as well as suggestions to increase awareness of this reward offer and the seriousness of these crimes. So thank you very much. I know you've, Commander, have had some extensive work done with you and all the bureaus, traffic bureaus, that is.
Yes.
And just like to hear the report.
Okay. Commander Blake Chow, Assistant Commanding Officer, Counterterrorism Special Operations Bureau, and I have with me Lieutenant Loomis, who is in our Emergency Operations Division. We support the motion of a $1,000 reward for information that would lead to the arrest and conviction of individuals that are engaged in hit-and-runs where property damage is sustained. $25,000 for A injuries, which are injuries where somebody breaks a bone or is hospitalized, so they're more significant injuries. And then $50,000 for what we call K injuries, which are fatalities. Just to give you some stats, as the council member said, we had a roughly 21,000 hit-and-runs last year. In property damage, we had 17,731 hit-and-runs in the city. We had 2,501 hit-and-runs that involved C injuries, and that's usually an injury where somebody just complains of pain. It might be to the neck or shoulder, but there's nothing visible. B injuries, we had 826. That's where they would have a mark on their, like a road rash or something like that, visible injury. 160 A injuries and 41 Ks.
And injuries resulting in hospitalization.
Yes, yeah, that's the most significant injury that, other than obviously a K. Of the felony cases, we found that 416, or I'm sorry, of the felony cases, 784 of them had suspect information, and that was, maybe from a witness or maybe an officer observed it or something like that. 416 were prosecuted, 232 were filed as a misdemeanor, and 91 filed as a felony. So I'm kind of giving you some numbers as to what we saw last year. Of the property damage, we had 2,921 where there was suspect information to work on. 1,392 were prosecuted. 901 were felonies. 901 were misdemeanors. 21 were felonies. Some of those cases go to a civil process where there's reimbursement and there's no charges that are actually filed. So that's something that we'll have to work out, when we sit down and come up with the pilot program. But our recommendation obviously would be to move forward with this, and we will sit down with the CLA's office, City Attorney's office, and come up with a way in which we can implement this in I would suggest a pilot program. We have a process where we have people fill out forms for graffiti and illegal dumping. It's very minimal, but they take information down about the date of the event, information that they see, and then that's passed on to a detective. So somehow we would use a vehicle like that where it would get back to our auto detectives so we can marry it up with a case.
Okay. So there's also, we got the feedback from the police department that Tier 1 would not be helpful because of the overwhelming vast majority of these types of hit and runs results in civil compromise. So the consensus was to recommend not go forward with Tier 1 and just completely eliminate Tier 1?
No, I think we should, Lieutenant Loomis and I looked at this again last week, and our recommendation here before you is actually to go forward with everything that's in the motion. One thing that we will have to do is, as we push forward with the pilot program, we'll have to factor in the civil process, because obviously if somebody's giving information that's allowing us to identify somebody that's involved in a property damage hit and run, right, even though this individual's not filed on it, it still should qualify, in our opinion, for a reward.
Very good. Very good. Okay. And then the other concern that I have, or the department had, was on the resources as well. Do we have adequate resources, especially on these property damage only, the PDOs, to handle these cases?
That's something that I think we'll really take a close look at when we craft up the procedures, because we haven't really thought about what the process is going to be like.
Okay.
But as I said, we're recommending that we do a pilot program so we can actually kind of track what the resource impact is on our traffic divisions.
Fantastic. And how long do you want to conduct the pilot program?
I would recommend a year.
Okay. Mr. O'Farrell?
I think it's a great thing to be doing, and just a question about the pilot program. Any sense of where and what the approximate fiscal impact would be to that?
I would sit down with our traffic coordinators and figure out. I mean, I think we should look at probably a part of the city where we have the most hit and runs. As far as fiscal impact, I mean, just generally speaking, just running some numbers kind of off the top of my head, you're looking at, for example, property damage with 17,000 hit and runs. If you had 10% of those come forward with some information, and you actually identified a suspect and were either prosecute or go to the civil process, you're looking at probably about 1.7 million. If you go to the A's, and we had 160 A injuries, and $25,000 is paid out on each one of those, because those are pretty significant. You generally have witnesses to those. You're looking probably about 4 million. And with K's at 41 K injuries with about $50,000 a piece, you could be looking at about 2 million. So those are just rough numbers that we came up with as we're looking at our numbers, kind of extrapolating the reward amounts.
And forgive me if you've already said this, but how many hit and run deaths were there in this
41 last year.
K represents hit and run deaths.
Yes.
Not just serious injuries, but deaths.
Yes.
And what's the average of, I heard the average number of deaths per year by pedestrians. If you, not just hit and runs, but not hit and runs, what is that? Is that about 80 a year?
Usually around 30 to 40.
Additional?
No, it's all included in that same number.
Oh, it
We
is.
have to break it down for you to pull up with vehicle versus vehicle, vehicle versus ped, vehicle versus bicycle.
Okay, I mean, I'm just interested in the overall issue of pedestrian safety. But I'm so pleased to be focusing in on hit and runs because, of course, that's chronic. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Well, our ultimate goal is, again, to change the culture of hit and run crimes here in the city of Los Angeles. If that starts with the driver, that would change the mindset, knowing that people are watching and witnesses can further come forward to help reduce the amount of hit and run crimes in the city of Los Angeles, and it's a success. So you're suggesting the pilot program, were you looking at a specific bureau or citywide?
I would recommend a specific bureau at this point.
Okay.
Maybe a bureau in the city where we have the most significant hit and run problem,
Okay.
and see what kind of, because that way we can kind of measure the impact of having the reward out there and the publicity that would go with it.
Yeah, my other question I had as far as public service announcements, billboard ads as well. What's the department doing on that end? Offering, what's the game plan that the department's going to look into as far as offering these rewards once it's set?
Well, I think we'd craft up a publicity plan, as you said, with the media. We'd go probably to our community groups and things like that, billboards, because obviously the goal is to reduce the hit and runs, not to just pay out money. So I think that once a pilot program's going, we could go on we'll come up with some recommendations and report back as to what the pilot program would involve, and it would obviously entail a publicity
Okay.
program so that we can increase awareness amongst drivers in Los Angeles.
Fantastic.
One last thing, Mr.
Go ahead, Mr.
Buscaino,
Martinez.
just a thought. First of all, thank you for introducing this and your leadership on this. It's great. I would be comfortable with doing the pilot program wherever it may be. I sense that it could be somewhere in the valley, but I don't, that's just, I have a feeling there are more incidents there. And secondly, can you take a look also at hit and runs near our schools?
Yes.
And I would love to see what those numbers are as well, both during school hours, the proximity to schools, and just perhaps focus on an emphasis
Yes.
on school safety and children. Not that, one hit and run to the next hit and run, it's equally tragic, but I'd just be interested in, and maybe there's something the city can do in working with LAUSD if we have some data about hit and runs near schools.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, because there's some fiscal impacts, we're going to refer this to Budget and Finance. But we'll adopt the recommendations and approve the motion as amended and send this to Budget and Finance for approval. Should we hold this here and then wait to hear back from Budget and Finance? John, what are your thoughts?
I think it's up to the committee. I mean, based on the timeline to complete the work, if you wanted to hold it in committee, I defer to the department as far as what the next steps would be for.
You still need to finalize the game plan here. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, what we would do is start meeting with the CLA's office, City Attorney's Office, and come up with a pilot program that we'd write up and report back.
Okay, let's do that. How much time do you need?
This just depends. We already have systems in place, just like the graffiti and the illegal
Right.
dumping. There's an ordinance and also a sheet that's a standardized reward form. We were hoping maybe we could mirror that. That's something that
Okay.
that the office would work with, and we would talk with them. Obviously with the budget, you have to talk about the reward amounts if those were agreed upon.
Okay, 45 days? Will that work? 60 days?
I would say 60 days.
Okay. This hold this in committee, report back 60 days, work with the CLA CEO's office, and then in the interim, we'll forward this to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your hard work. Thank you. You okay with that, Mitch? Yeah. Okay, let's take item number 5.
Item 5, motion Buscaino Englander relative to the establishment of a California Accidental Release Prevention Program Inspection section of the Los Angeles Fire Department website that would provide information to residents on the 50 CalARP facilities inspected by the LAFD and provide said information in a clear and easy to understand format, and further instruct the CAO in conjunction with the LAFD to report on the costs of establishing and maintaining the CalARP information page.
We are now joined by Committee Chairman Mitch Englander. Happy Valentine's Day. You missed the...
Thank you.
Be mine?
That's not on the agenda, sir.
But we do love you.
Absolutely.
But I did
It's
see
okay
that
to
you,
say I love you.
I did see that you made your family heart-shaped pancakes
Pancakes,
this morning.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the way to get started.
Gone viral all over the internet, by
Is
the
that
way.
right?
Just letting you know. But good morning. And
We're here on item 5. We just heard 4. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for agendizing this important issue pertaining to the harbor area when it comes to above-ground tank storage facilities. There's been a long-standing concern in my district about the number of facilities near residential areas that store large quantities of potentially dangerous and or hazardous materials stored at these locations. There have been numerous reports, committee meetings, community outreach meetings hosted to address this concern, and followed a special meeting of this committee in the harbor area that we moved to have the CLA draft a new report on solutions to alleviate residential concerns. The report noted a significant problem was a lack of understanding of the city's role in ensuring facilities follow state standards, state safety standards, that is, and recommend that the fire department improve its communication standards and add a special section to their website to share the information with the public about these said facilities that are inspected under state law. And it's my understanding that considerable work has been done with the fire department. We can't thank you enough for that. Over the last several months to build out this website. I'd like to ask the fire department for an update as to the work that's been done.
Yes, sir. Committee members, Mark Storms, Deputy Chief Fire Marshal, back in the Fire Marshal's office from the Emergency Services Detail. I'm here to let you know that the work that has been done is focusing on completing this project by the end of April. We've identified $12,000 in funding to support both CUPA efforts and Management Information Services efforts to develop that public-facing website to provide the information on the 50 CalARP facilities within the city boundaries. I have today with me the CUPA director, Hanny Malky. If you have any detailed questions, he's actually been the project lead in developing this, and I've seen the drafts and the plan. It looks like it'll be very user-friendly to the customer, as well as an excellent opportunity for the community to see just how thoroughly the city agencies and state agencies are monitoring these facilities.
Thank you. You want to, just for introductory purposes, say a few words?
Hanny Melky, CUPA manager. Like
Thank you.
the chief indicated, we had a work group that included CLA, CD15, city attorney's office, and CEO's office. We have a work plan in place. We got the funding for it. We'll start implementation. Just one correction. It's 4 months it's going to take us for the project, so we're looking at mid of...
This is phase 1 or both phase 1 and 2?
We're broke it down to 2 phases. Phase 1 is actually just putting out on the website PDF file of the facilities, inspection dates, and result of the inspections. That has been completed. We're waiting for the city attorney's approval for us to post it on the website. As soon as we get approval, phase 1 will be completed. But phase 2 would take about 4 months, and that is to improve our website and actually have live data that will take data from our data management system, which will have the inspection dates, inspection results, and post them weekly on the website, automatically on the website.
Do we see this this website or this effort being be expanded in the future as we see how people use the website and what information they're accessing on a regular basis via their cell phone? And
That's a first rollout. We're
Okay.
hoping to improve it, and actually we're hoping that we will expand it to all hazardous material facilities, not just the CalARP. So this will be first step for us, and feedback from the community and your feedback as well will help a lot to implement future.
I know there's a chief indicated a $12,000 rollout on the website work. Is there future maintenance costs moving forward beyond the $12,000?
For just this portion, phase 2 of it, it's about $12,700. Maintenance cost is about $450 per month,
Okay.
and the fire department will absorb that.
Okay.
If we expand it, probably going to need more funding, and we'll come back at that point.
And can you get into specifics as far as what's going to be on the website, the data that's going to be shared with the public?
Sure.
I mean, our concern is the information that tends to be restricted by the federal government, and obviously for federal security concerns.
And that's why we have
We
to
need
run
to be
anything
mindful of
we
that. I'm sorry?
Anything we're going to disclose, we're going to run it by the city attorney
Okay.
to make sure that we'll be able to disclose it. At this point, the way we envision the website will be, we'll have 2 columns with links, one of them for the regulated community, which will be a lot more technical, and one for the community in large or the public. And in there, we will have what the overview of the regulation is. We'll have fact sheets about CalARP as well, or FAQs, depending which way we're going to go with that, and facility inspection results for all the facilities where somebody could go in, type in a facility name, and it'll pop up with the inspection date and results.
So, and what we heard in the in ongoing discussions with the community is the roles and responsibilities of the regulatory agencies, and specifically, we can only do what we can on the local level. Can you explain to us, just for the record, about the CalARP program, LA Fire Department's role in the inspection certification agency on behalf of the state of California?
Sure. CalARP is a state requirement. LAFD enforces it on the local level. We review the RMP, which is Risk Management Plan. It's similar to the risk management plan that EPA gets, but we review it, and we do go inspections every 3 years to the site to inspect these sites. If there's any deficiencies, we'll let the facility know, and we'll give them the time to fix these deficiencies at that time.
In addition, you include state regulatory agencies as well once you find deficiencies?
Correct. OSHA, correct.
Okay.
We do that.
Very good. Mr. Chair?
No, thank you.
Oh, just, thank you. Quick question. Where can we find a list of these 50 facilities?
I do have a spreadsheet with me right now,
Perfect.
but we'll, as soon as we get approval from city attorney, we will post it on the website as well.
Wonderful.
We do have a
And-
list of it right now.
In your evaluation of the facilities, do you take it, well, I would assume, but I don't want to assume, you take into consideration vehicular traffic near the facilities, the risk associated with that proximity?
Each facility has to do what we call the PHA, which is process hazard analysis, and it should encompass internal, within the process, internal incidences that might have, and external events that could have, which includes vehicle traffic within the facility.
Okay, I have some construction, some infrastructure construction coming soon to near a facility in my district, so I would love to check in with you about precautions related to that project. Thank you.
If it's one of the CalARP facilities, we'll be glad to discuss them.
Wonderful, thanks.
Sure, thanks very much.
Okay, so at this point, we'll go ahead and hold it in committee and come back once you've got approval. What kind of time frame are you looking at?
We're looking for completion of the project 4 months.
4 months?
Got the funding, this week, so 4 months.
So when you say the funding, I'm going back to the funding source. You're talking about also utilizing staff overtime?
Exactly.
Yes.
I would think that there should be grant opportunities available. This is a regional issue. Have you looked and worked with the grants office and the mayor's office to see if we can either?
We have not, no.
I would say, when you come back, if you can report back on and touch base with perhaps Ms. Decker, who's
The Homeland Security Division has looked from their perspective at these same 50 facilities as part of their grant-funded efforts.
Well, I would look to, right now, I don't need to get into where we're at with overtime in the fire department. And, at this point, every dollar is critically important. So if we could look to possible grant funding and perhaps other partnerships, if the bulk of this is in any one area, if there could be a fee established for under the permitting where it's cost neutral, where we can charge, because there's going to be ongoing maintenance efforts, levels of maintenance to make sure it remains current with, as well as, new facilities that come online, changes in facilities or protocols that could augment that cost, and so it's sustainable. I'd come back with an idea of either one of the two or a combination of both when it comes back in 4 months. That would be great.
That is one of the benefits of being the COOP on behalf of the state. HANI can develop procedures and cover those costs as part of operating costs and shared amongst all of the hazardous material operators within the city, so he can recover it.
Yeah, and if we could, but looking at the first phase in the next several months, we're going to still put a lot of time into that, and I'd like to try to recapture and recoup some of those costs as well.
Great, thank you.
Because it all adds up, as we all know.
Yes, it does.
So, okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Really, truly appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if I can. The website information, can that be up sooner than the 4 months? Or you still have to get, I know you have to get the approval by the city attorney's office, right?
I've seen the samples that they are ready, that they want to move forward with.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak on behalf of MIS and their work schedule to get it developed, but you may have had that discussion with them.
Right. We're in process of converting our data management system. So as soon as that is converted, we'll be a little bit quicker. Timeline, we're looking about 2 months for it to be converted. So I want to give ourselves a little bit more time for that. We anticipate to have a mock-up in 2 months. So we'll have something in 2 months to show.
Well, we've seen what happens when government puts websites up prematurely, and that been tested.
But we can certainly bring you the mock-up that we plan on give you an update in 60 days.
Fantastic.
Excellent. So we'll get the update from you then, and then we'll have the full plan ready for about June. Excellent.
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Thank
support.
you. Thanks.
Morning, Mr. Clerk.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
All right. So that should take us. Let's go through the consent item as well.
Yes.
If there's anybody on here on that. On consent, unless there's no objection, we'll go with item 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12, and 13. Those are all grants and or donations. And I want to thank those who are donating equipment to LAPD and LAFD, Amundsen Training Facility, the defibrillators as well, critically important. Also the graffiti apprehension reward payment, and those are always great to pay out. And remind the public that, if they see something, say something. But with that, anytime we pay out a graffiti reward, that means that it led to the apprehension and conviction of somebody who was costing the city and the taxpayers millions of dollars in graffiti. And then the donation, of course, of the military equipment and items. And so I want to thank them and, of course, again, the LAPD Foundation for their great work. So unless there's any objection to those items?
Nope.
Then that'll be the order. Great.
Committee members, items 1, 2, and 3 have CAO reports that were submitted after the publication of the agenda. Do you wish to approve those?
Yes, we'll go ahead and approve those without objection as well.
And number 2 specifically has a technical amendment to one of its recommendations. Well, that will be approved as amended with your okay.
With the technical amendment, correct. We've heard item 4, which is coming back here in 5. On item 7, donation of the 8,000 trauma kits. We'll go ahead and hear that item.
Item 7.
I believe Commander Webb is here to discuss that as well. Good morning.
Board of Police Commissioners report relative to the donation of 8,000 trauma kits valued at $352,652 from the LAPD Foundation for the benefit of the LAPD.
Oh, and before you start, if there's anybody here on item 6, we're going to go ahead and continue item 6, I believe, for 30 days? Or 30 days? Okay, 30 days on item 6. Sir?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Rick Webb. I'm a commander with the Los Angeles Police Department, and I know that typically this kind of agenda item is just passed on, but I felt it was important to come and talk to you today a little bit about our trauma kits. In 2008, some terrorists out of Pakistan attacked Mumbai. They split up into teams and ultimately killed almost 200 people, I believe. And the tactics that were used by the terrorists at that time kind of send a shiver through law enforcement. So myself and Assistant Chief Sandy Jo MacArthur and others put together a program called MACTAC, which is the Multiple Assault Counterterrorism Action Capability, which is essentially a way that we would deal with active shooters and over multiple locations. Well, of course, most of that was put together by people in the police department who had experienced armed conflict across the military, so they provided the tactics, but the policy directives and those types of things I developed. And one of the things that started coming out of that was the need for law enforcement to have a better trauma kit so that we could self-aid in the event that police officers go into one of these types of events. As we've seen at LAX, when officers go in and actually confront a shooter, then the results can be very positive for stopping the threat. But on occasion, police officers are shot, and they have to have the ability to self-aid. Back in, I believe, 1996, 97, something like that, Officer Phil Cuesta was shot and killed in the line of duty. And at that time, a police officer who remains on this job today, she's actually a lieutenant, took her shirt off and tried to provide aid to Officer Cuesta, who I knew quite well, as a matter of fact. And after that, the Police Foundation, which is a consortium of community members who donate a very large sum of money to help the Los Angeles Police Department, their very first donation ever was to the police department in the form of very large trauma kits. Now, those trauma kits, which we lovingly call the pillow, they're relatively large, and you remember those very well. And they had some very nice and good equipment in those, but as we started to assess our needs for confronting active shooters, in other words, when we go, for lack of a better word, downrange, meaning we go down and confront these people, we need our trauma kits with us. Well, both positively and negatively, as you know, the military has experienced quite a bit of combat operations in the last decade, and as a result, they have developed trauma techniques that have saved lives, most notably the use of combat tourniquets. The use of hemostatic agents, which were not going to be in this for a whole bunch of reasons, and other life-saving techniques that we can learn. So we started working on a trauma kit that would be very portable, something that police officers could take with them in the event of an unusual circumstance. It's not like officers are going to be carrying this 24/7. It really is just for very, very unusual events, and it's really designed so that a police officer, when he or she goes downrange, and if they are shot or wounded, they can actually self-aid and hopefully even continue in the confrontation of the threat. So we developed this in cooperation with the Police Foundation, and it's a very simple kit. It contains scissors and some combat tourniquets, some prophylactic measures to make sure that we don't have any bloodborne pathogen problems, pressure bandages, and a few other things that we think that will help police officers in the event that they're injured. The big thing is obviously the training. There's going to be about 6,000 of these that have been purchased, and we're going to be purchasing some more. We're also working on actually, believe it or not, the bag itself is actually a challenge to come up with the right bag, and we're actually a little bit in the middle of designing even more special bags that will help us so that they don't get in the way of our equipment, but also can carry other equipment as well. Unlike training just a few people, training 10,000 police officers is quite a challenge. So we have an online training program as well as a skills test. And then most notably what is going to happen over the next 18 months is that when we do training at the academy or in-service training and that type of stuff, instead of stopping, and cops tend to stop at bang, in other words, during the tactile training, police officers will there's a use of force incident, they stop and they debrief the incident and move on. We are not going to stop at bang. We're going to stop at providing aid in the middle of a shooting event. So it's kind of a little bit of a culture shift for the police department to be carrying these things. And again, this is really just designed for self-aid. We are not trying to take the place of our fire department. We're working very hand in glove with the fire department on active shooter type stuff. But suffice to say that the fire department that we have in the city is really unparalleled in their ability to provide medical care. And we're not trying to get into that business. We don't have the training, the capability, or the funding. But this is really just a big positive thing, and I just wanted to make sure that the City Council knew what we were up to over there at the police department.
Let me, first of all, thank you. I sat through just a couple weeks ago at the Independent Cities Association an active shooter panel of all the experts and talking about one of the number one things that a new tool that we have to carry, not such a new tool, but is tourniquets.
Yep.
And it used to be thought of, in fact, I had a note that I was just looking at from my seminar a couple weeks ago and putting together a motion to figure out how we can get trauma kits in every black and white, how we can get tourniquets distributed to all the police officers. So you're fast ahead of that. So Doug, no need to draft a motion. We're there. But with that, also explaining, I think it's really important, what I heard from a lot of physicians that were there and experts, were that it used to be thought of as tourniquets. If you put on a tourniquet, you're going to lose that limb. And the world has changed. And we've learned it from the military, as you said, that modern medicine suggests otherwise. And they can prove that and have the tools necessary and can do it often even in the field to ensure that they save those limbs. But it's also to thinking about, more importantly, to save those lives. And with that, most people also apparently, I guess, don't realize, and police officers don't realize and don't have the training to know that you'll bleed out in 3 minutes.
Yep.
And that's exactly best case scenario, how quickly, depending on the situation, best case scenario, how quickly medical aid can actually get to you. And that's considering that it's already been, a safe environment where an RA can get to you to apply a tourniquet. That's 3 minutes, and that's best case scenario. It takes 3 minutes to bleed out, ironically. So having these out there, let me ask you this: what is this will without question save lives, and it's a very good thing. So the two things we've got to do is, in addition to the training and distribution, is to ensure that we mandate that every officer have these readily accessible, maybe not immediately accessible, readily accessible, either in their black and whites, in their patrol cars, in their unmarked cars. Every motor should have them as well. What's the distribution plan to get these out? Is it going to be something that's checked out of the kit room? Are they going to be assigned individually?
I'm not a big fan of checking stuff out.
Yeah, either am I.
I don't like checking out my shirt for the day or anything like that. I want my stuff to be my stuff.
People tend to take better care of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was insistent on the fact that we actually issue these to officers. And you may recall that back in the day we actually had a seal on the pillow that officers were not allowed to open. In other words, they knew something was inside there, but it wasn't until that moment of truth that they would open it. We want these things to be a customizable item, and where officers can look inside them. They can look at this stuff. Of course, they're going to practice using this kind of stuff. So each bag is going to be issued to the officer so that they can carry that. And when I talk about how the bag is going to be customizable, we're actually thinking of putting some Velcro on here and actually Velcro in the car so that the officers can actually just put this right in the car with them, and if they have to grab it and go, they can actually do that. We're actually coming up with a specialized bag, which is going to be pretty pricey, to actually have a little bit bigger bag with extra ammunition behind it so that it's kind of all compact in one. So if there is an active shooter incident and we have a rifle operator, they can take it with them. That's kind of a long way of saying that this is going to be individually issued to each officer. They're going to be encouraged actually to look at these things, know what's inside it. If they want to throw in another tourniquet, the bag's designed so that they can do that.
Great.
And the big thing,
I would ask that if there's a place to affix their serial or last name on it somewhere as well.
yeah, we think the Velcro will do
Work
that
on
as
that.
well.
Great.
Yep.
Great. Excellent.
Very good
And I would also ask that further, this not be a one-time action, that we add this to the mandatory equipment list and training in the academy. So every new graduate receives not only the training in the academy on these, but I would ask that they go ahead and add it to the mandatory equipment list so we continue purchasing them, because it can't just be a one-time thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I would hope that in the future we don't have to raise funds for first aid kits. This is a $70 item, something like that. And it seems to me that, as you say, there's a nice little graduation gift to our police officers at the academy. They should be given that.
Do we have the ability to do that, to amend this here now and put it on the equipment list, or can we just put that suggestion back to the department? Yeah, you know all. You know everything, Mr. Tiefenk. You never give clear answers, but you know it all. Don't be vague and ambiguous. You know the answer. Don't be just be.
I will give you a clear
straightforward.
answer. Richard Tiefenk, Executive
Yes.
Director of the Police Commission. I think the council member has a great idea. I think you should do it. It makes good sense, and they could just include it in the price that they have when you issue equipment to a new officer. It just be an additional whatever those dollars are. They get new vests, they get uniforms, get everything issued. They get issued this.
Great.
Makes good sense.
And we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll amend it to include that forever. And if we could put that down as the Commander Web package, and we're going to officially from here on out name that. Make sure everybody's got their web with them.
Call it web gear.
So the web gear. So we're their web kit, and so the web kit will officially now be here enacted and officially named the web kit moving forward. Yes, done. No, we actually want that in the report. Want that in the report. It will be the web kit, and with that, we always name everything in this department, and this is fantastic, and I really appreciate it. With that, I want to also make sure that all the reserve officers be included in that count, and that they get them as well. They are oftentimes overlooked,
Yep.
and so make sure that that's part of it as well, and I want to include that in there as well, that the reserve officers will get them. Thank you. Anything?
Thank you.
I just want to thank the Los Angeles Police Commission and Commander Webb. This will save lives. This will end up saving lives, and that's just really good.
You also hear about and remember the traumatic incidents of Christina Rapati and Randall
Right.
Simmons, and we owe it to them, the fallen officers. If we can save one officer out in the street by using these kits, then we're successful. And that's our ultimate goal, is to make sure our street officers are safe at all times, and these kits will provide that safety.
The general public.
Right, that too.
They can certainly utilize these before other help gets on the way, so absolutely. Thank you. So we will now have our web kits
Thank you.
for here on out. Thank you very much. That'll be a unanimous vote. Thank you. With that, I believe that takes us to...
So that completes your agenda?
That completes the agenda. Any general public comment?
None today.
And we'll go ahead and anything that we had voted on or tabled earlier prior to having a quorum, we'll reopen for a full quorum vote, pass those items unanimously, satisfied public comment on those as well, and move those items to council.
Yes, sir.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day.